What's good, YouTube? Everyone, I finally made Masters, and I'm so happy with this deck because I played this in TCG, and I just wanted to come back to Master Duel because I was able to get the cards or the pack for the Runick cards, and I'm like, take my money. And I finally did it. I did it with Runick Bystial or Bystial Runick, or however you'd like to call it. This is my favorite deck that brought me back into Yu-Gi-Oh! I love this deck. Shout out to Josh Schmidt, very popular dude, for making this deck happen. Bystial Runick is my style of game. It's basically a grind game control deck, out resourcing your opponent by interrupting your opponent by either decking them out or by threatening an OTK after skipping your battle phase. And before I explain certain tech cards that are different from the traditional Bystial Runick decks, I'd like to at least profile the deck for you guys. First one, we have two Maxis. It was really tight, the deck, so I'll explain why I play a weird ratio of hand traps. One Ecclesia to search the Golden Sword Soul. They're a package. The Cartesia, I'll explain why I still play that. It's still a very useful tuner. Our starter, Triple Quem, used to basically start off throwing more tuners in the graveyard and special summoning. The Bystial ratio lineup with the 1 Magnuma, 1 Serenir, 1 Drewsworm, 1 Baldrek, and triple Lubellion. This is a perfect ratio. I would not increase it. This is good the way it is because they could be easily searchable. The 2 talents, again, I'll explain with hand traps why it's a weird ratio. The 1 Runic Fountain. The 2 Branded Regain. Typically, most people play 1, but I'll explain. 2 Called by the Graves, and this is a typical ratio for Runic cards because of the limited and semi-limited ban list for Master Duel. I play it like this. A lot of people mess around mainly with these 3 having either triple or single or double copies in a combination. Play it how you like, but typically this is what I prefer the most, and in terms of the ratio, it was fine drawing. And lastly, the triple duality for the main deck. For the extra deck, I played the 1 Alvain, which is a duality target for Hugin. Gary, which is also a duality target. The Dusk Dragon, 1. 1 Sleipnir. 1 Fabled Unicorn. 1 Tri-Edge. And our Synchro 10 Synchros, Baron, Qingying, Disbatter, and Chaos Angel. Depending on your matchup, you'll be probably summoning those 4 very often. Despian Lulu Walith and Centurion Legatia. And finally, the 1 Little Knight. There is a lot of questions I'm sure some people may have with it, so let's just get to it. First, I want to address the tech cards, the unique cards that are not typically in Runick Bystial or Bystial Runick. First one is Cartesia. I really value Cartesia because not only is it it has 3 purposes basically. It's a recursive tuner, it counters hand traps, and it interrupts your opponent by summoning the package. Typically when you play Cartesia, you could play Dusk Dragon, and after Dusk Dragon, when something is summoned, you can play Lulu Walith, and it could basically negate a card on the field. Again, it's just bodies, and it can synergize well to bring tuners back and send Bystials to the graveyard, like Serenir, and Serenir can send Lubellion. So you're basically just thinning out your deck. So that's the reason why I play Cartesia. You could really just take it out if you don't enjoy that engine. I definitely love to hear what other people are playing, but I typically will see like 2 Ecclesias or just none of this and a hand trap. Next, Branded Regain. I've seen people only play 1, typically on a lot on Master Duel Meta, and 1 Regain, the reason I don't play one is because when it gets destroyed, it's typically offline, and you don't have a second one to get you back with Lubellion. However, I do value 2 because honestly, this is the MVP of the deck that keeps you continuously recycling your graveyard, bringing back Bystials, and synchroing them. Because in my experience, they're always so fixated on getting Fountain thrown or destroyed. And with that said, the regain is just the second half or of there's a lot of moving parts in Bystial Runick that it could run without this, but when these two are both online, it's just a very oppressively out resourcing to your opponent. So having 2, it's just I just felt like in my experience when every time one was gone, it was just gone forever. And I truly value this a little bit more than Fountain because Fountain's at 1 and you just have to play very conservative with it. And lastly, the MVP that I still follow with Josh Schmidt is Triple Duality in the deck. I genuinely love this card because it's a free draw, but mainly it's used to not have Hugin get interrupted by hand traps when you're trying to search out Fountain, and then they try to imperm and then you just target it. The other reason you want to use this is because it's a target not only for Hugin, but for Gary. Gary can make another really MVP card, Fabled Unicorn. Now, Fabled Unicorn, this deck can easily control your hand and still have you be able to negate things in the field. Basically, a free skill drain for all cards if you can control your hand, which is very manageable with a lot of quick play spells and the interruptions of Bystial cards. And last thing I'd like to mention is hand traps. I didn't play a traditional of anything because one, it's expensive, and 2, the deck is super tight. I would have 3 maxis when I can. I'll think about taking out maybe something in the future, like Cartesia and having a whole bunch of stuff to mess around. But you know, playing maxi, you have to in a best of ones. From my experience in TCG, so maxi is just great. If you're wondering, the hand traps I only play is maxi, triple tactics, talent, and call by the grave. Bystials count as a hand trap a little bit because it can be interruptive, especially when you're fighting dark or light decks, like for example Labyrinth. But the mindset I came with using these hand traps is you basically want to push. This deck is super weak in the early game of the deck or of the game, and if you get things negated, you gotta try to draw 2 and try to continue trying to get either Fountain on the field or just push for a combo, because as the game goes on, the stronger this deck becomes. And Called by the Grave, another aggressive or offensive play. If they're trying to ash you can play this. So it was really helpful. I truly love these hand traps. I wish I could play more, but let's start off. I play the 1 Ecclesia to target Golden Sword Soul. It's a package that they could search each other and grab each other. Blazing Cartesia, I mentioned that already, to basically interrupt, and it's just basically synchro fodder. Your starter, Triple Quem basically starts all your plays by playing this, playing any runic spell to grab a tuner from the grave that it pitches, and you just summon rank 10s easily. Now, a traditional thing as well, the Bystial package, the 1 Magna Hut, 1 Serenier, 1 Drewsworm, Baldrake, and triple Lubellion. I personally love this ratio. I wouldn't change it. That's perfect the way it is. The 2 talents, the 1 Fountain, so you gotta play conservative because you only have 1. 2 regains, 2 Called by the Graves, And tips, I've seen many consistency inconsistencies due to how many Runick's cards there are, that this is probably the best to be played because with the one destruction and the two ups, it's super. You just want to keep having at least a good amount of consistency with your Runics, and I found this the best. I personally dislike this the most, but I still play it just to summon because I feel like I go through all my Runics easily. That's why. And lastly, the duality. In the extra deck, though, I play the one Alvain as the duality target, 2 Hugin, 1 Gary. Now, Gary, I've seen many people play either 2 or so. I play 1 because I play either very conservatively by only summoning it whenever I could get Fabled Unicorn or whenever I have to get Fountain on the field. It's good at 1. You could definitely play it at 1 because, again, that's your lifeline to grab Fountain back from the field. And when you get Fabled Unicorn, you can easily throw it back to the deck with Duality. I'll show you with some replays of how Duality can really still help the deck recycle. The 1 Dusk Dragon. The Sleipnir. Sleipnir still comes in handy. Definitely in the battle phase. You could throw cards back to the extra deck if you have Regain. And you're fighting a Light and Dark. And it's just a good interrupter that I would definitely keep it. It saved me in one of a Tenpai game. The 1 Fabled Unicorn. The 1 Tri-Edge. Baron. Qingying. The 1 Dispatter. These are your 10s. Chaos Angels. So you'll basically be summoning these 4 quite often depending on your matchup. The Lulu Walith. And the Centurion Legatia. Just to draw, and it's a free 12. Lastly, a Little Knight. So this is the deck. If you guys have questions, I want to hear what you guys are playing, and if you have questions, I want to know as well, and I can try to answer it. But I'd like to finally show you some replays and to show you what works and what came up because of this deck. I feel like every single card in the extra deck came up. There's not a wasted space. If anything, if you don't want the Cartesia engine, you could play with other things. I've seen what is it? Branded. So play around with it, and that's why I truly love this deck. I continue to be playing it in the future. Here are some replays. So starting off with this first replay, typically a turn 1, just to show an example of how using duality getting unicorn can come up. You could do your typical normal play, but just as a good example of a turn 1, ideally how it goes, and it's pretty likely you draw these cards, is 1, normal summon Quem, hitch Ecclesia, summon Hugin, discard for cost, effect to chain block to grab the Ecclesia, grab the Fountain, normal the Fountain, chain and tribute to get Golden Sword Soul, synchro to get Tri-Edge Master to draw 1, get Baron, droplet to get Gary, draw 3, and chain with duality to get Fabled Unicorn, and I got a Bystial so I could get another ranked Synchro 10, banish the duality to throw those 2 cards back to the extra deck. I ended on this instead of popping off because I intentionally wanted to have 5 cards. Like I mentioned, you can easily manipulate your hand with Unicorn. Having 5 cards, he's gonna draw for 6, and unless he summons in hand and discards, I have to manipulate my hand. So he plays Twin Twister. Obviously, you could play Hugin, but since he discards 1, 4 and 4, I obviously just summon Hugin in response. With that, I just negate it. We both have 4 cards in hand. Normals, I chain to have that there. In addition, send cards back to my hand and banish with Golden Sword Soul to special summon a tuner from hand. And we still have 3 cards. Uses the effect on battle phase, but Fabled Unicorn. So it's really easy to get that. Unfortunately, this is a really good example of him getting his out as well. He Forbidden Droplets me, and because of that, there's 1 card in his hand. I can't negate anymore. But we still have a huge resource pool to go through. I'm just trying to have a board because I'm getting ready for him to OTK or so. Destroys. Hugin's effect to go back to the extra deck. Synchro summons. Gets Black Rose to bomb the field. As I'm doing that, I'm just chaining, throwing things to the grave. It's gonna die anyway, so might as well just banish. Destroy. So I have follow-up for next turn still. So that's why this deck is just really good at getting resources and interrupting. So Fabled Unicorn, that was an example of an ideal turn 1. You could have continued popping off, but that's how I played it. And he just scoops, just because I have full combo to still go rank Synchro 10. So for the second duel, we are fighting Snake Eyes Fire King. And they actually go first. I want to highlight this example because I summon Fabled Unicorn mid-game, and it wreaks havoc. And just basically showing how it's not your main goal to get Fabled Unicorn in this build, but it's convenient, basically. Anyways, I'll skip his turn, just doing Fire King things. Okay, my turn. End phase, I wanted to get that out of the graveyard. Get that at the end phase. And then it's my turn. So I draw. He plays this. So I actually misplay thinking this is for cost. Thinking it wouldn't destroy. But it still works out. He uses that, destroys it. Still gets his effect. So I just say, you know what? Let me just go for my Hugin. And I'll just let the replay showcase the resilience of this deck. That was a pretty good play on his part. I felt pretty cornered at this point. But I still get that. And Triple Tactics is online, but I'm waiting whether or not I should rip a card depending on if I get interrupted more. Yeah. My main goal typically is to have both Regain and Fountain online before I even Synchro 10. At this point, I am just trying to recycle and just survive. Get that field spell out. Still summoning because he did that. I just wanted that off the board. Chain 2 that. So he's popping off with a board. And a good example of why I try not to use Gary very offensively. Because of this, I got duality and that. So I see Gary, and obviously I need to get my Runick Fountain. So it was pretty convenient to get duality and a Runick spell. Summon Fabled Unicorn. That back to hand. banish 2 and put back those 2. Now I have turn for Gary to come back just in case he destroys it. Remember, since Fable Unicorn's on in the grave, I have 1, 2, 3 runic spells in the grave, so I could draw for 3 at this point. Uses the effect to destroy all monsters. I don't want that, so I freezing curse that. So that is negated. I get to draw 3 from that, and because of that, we have the same cards at hand. Main phase 1. I just trying to control our hand, so I'm controlling the game. 3 cards, negate. It was really great. And then that in the graveyard, 3 cards in the same hand, negate. Getting flashing fire. So this is where he threw his whole hand away. So I said, darn, I need to just use spells. At this point, he has a lot of cards in his field, and I'm just banishing. I just needed to draw. That's why I did that. Board looks pretty bad, but the resilience of this deck, if they don't get rid of Regain and Fountain, my deck comes back. And just a great example of why I value Regain so much. Be special, like I get to get a Bystial on the board, destroys that. So, because of duality bringing back Gary and Hugin, I can still get my Fountain back. Fact. Summoning Gary as Chain. He only has 12 cards in his hand too. Or in his deck. Fact. Yeah. Fire King's very recursive. So amazing part. He chains me, I special summon Drewsworm. While he does that, I put another Regain on the field. And with that I draw 3. Yeah. Synchro for Chaos Angel. Banish. End phase. Destruction. He has 8 cards left, so I'm thinking to just deck him out at this point. Draw another 3. And because he summoned, I summoned Drewsworm, and he's about to bomb the whole field. And called by the grave that, so it doesn't come back. At this point, 1 card and 4. I knew he had nothing left, so the normal combo. And I have tip, just enough to deck him out. But I still do some swag points and get Baron in the field. And that is the last card. I just chose anything. I was almost out of time. mind you, what's amazing or the crazy thing about this deck, you need to play fast because if you don't, I've lost from time just by comboing off. So on to the next video that showcases Fabled Unicorn. This deck we're dueling is Labyrinth, and we have a pretty good matchup with Labyrinth. Labyrinth, since they're a dark deck, we could easily Bystial a lot of their things. But just showing this is a really quick duel. I maxi this duelist, and he just summons a little bit, not too much, and I think I draw a few cards. It really does hurt turn 1 when they rip a card from our hand. Thankfully, in this deck, when he summons their boss monster, they destroy just Called by the Grave. But either way, this was a really good duel to show why Duality and Runick can really go hand in hand. So he's just setting up for next turn. He ripped the card from my hand. And with that, he just ended with 3 set. And when we drew, we got Fountain. We love to see that. Because check this out. When we go in a chain 5, I believe, sending all his cards to his grave and just going crazy, chaining, I said to myself, you know what? After this, I'm just gonna summon Fabled Unicorn, because there's, believe in this chance, we are able to negate a lot. He's trying to use the first chain effect to rip a card from our hand and add cards to his hand from chaining all of these. And with this said, I summon Fabled Unicorn as the 5th chain. Gets 1 card to his hand. Gets another card. And we're on chain 2. We have 3 cards of the same. Negate. Negate. It was insane. And what's crazy, we have 2 cards now when he chained me. And chain 3 to try to summon again. Same cards. Negate. That goes through. Runick tip. Get destruction. I was gonna rip a card from his hand for revenge, but since he didn't have one, I drew 3. And this is just an amazing play because of Fabled Unicorn. This wouldn't have happened. Normal Quem, because I drew it. Uses that to use Imperm. Summon Hugin. And just scoops. Just an amazing example of why Fabled Unicorn can really turn duels around if you're counting cards. So for the 4th game, I'm going first, and I got a pretty combo hand. We are fighting Kashtira, and this is an example of basically playing the Maxi challenge and how Fabled Unicorn clutched it for me. Summon Hugin to actually bait. So I'm gonna discard a tip to get a Ash to chain and get Fountain. Now, my combo's kind of stunned, and I am playing under the Maxi challenge, but unfortunately I have to play this way because I don't want to get OTK'd. I don't even know what I was fighting at the time, so I just assumed it was going to be a 10 pie get OTK'd, so I'm like, you know what, just pop off, go to play the Maxi challenge. Doing that, I just had to set up my board. And something really cool about this example too, playing Little Knight, you could play a little offensive with Little Knight to banish your own extra deck just to have regain and just draw. Regain is really great. I had Duality set just in case I draw any runic spells. I could easily go into Fabled Unicorn. I just want to banish that out because I don't want any cards banished face down, and I just tribute to get Golden Sword Soul. I get Fabled Unicorn out just because I can, in hopes that I can get the same cards at hand. He banishes 3, plays the Maxi Challenge. I don't want to play that because I want to manipulate my hand. This is a great example too of how Cartesia can really be an interrupter, not just synchro fodder. So I use its effect to get Dusk Dragon. Effect of that to send Serenir. Serenir effect to send to the grave. And that, when they summon something, I was able to get Lulu Walith. And when something leaves the extra deck, you can make all monsters gain 500 attack and negate 1 card on the field. So doing that, I was able to negate it. And this is where he mad misplayed. We had the same cards at hand. I guess he forgot Fabled Unicorn's effect. Uses the effect, negated, destroyed. Effect of that in the banishment effect, we still have the same amount of cards, negated. And because of that, I have combo for next turn. Anti-spell fragrance, I just negate these 2 so we can have it off the field or banish it. And this is how you could play loop your extra deck really easy. As an example, when I banish it, I draw 2, use the effect of Lulu Walith to negate anti-spell fragrance, draw 2, and we just have huge card advantage at this point. Summon Little Knight again, as I threw it back. Banish Duality, put those 2 back to the extra deck for next turn. And that's just when he scoops. The last and final replay I wanted to go over is an example of how Cartesia could be used with Quem. And just how it could be used more than just synchro fodder. So I'm fighting Tearlament, and I will just skip his turn as they'll just do Tearlament things, throwing many things to the grave using a bunch of effects. And I get interrupted pretty badly, but again, the resilience of Bystial Runick is why I love this deck so much. The grind game is pretty fun to interact with, and it's very unique instead of just attack swinging for game. So effect, I special summon, uses Ash Blossom on that, so it's just there. And because that is in the field now, Quem can just be used to just send Golden Sword Soul. I have most of my tuners in the grave now. I had to negate that effect. And because of that, I have a dead card in hand. So what I have to do now is send that to the grave, use the effect, grab Cartesia, also banish that to grab Make Ecclesia on the field, Golden Sword Soul. So I have all my tuners here. Unfortunately, no Bystials. So the best play I can do is Tri-Edge to draw one. Use the effect. And get Dust Dragon. You can fusion summon from the hand too, which is pretty nice. Get Serenir in the grave. Summon Baron. Effect to that. So this is a cool part. He uses that, I think it's called, yeah, Fairy Snow. And that's a pretty annoying card. I destroy that effect since he's special summoned. He flips that face down, which is kind of good for me. I negate a lot of interactions here. So I negate that. Sets that. Get Lulu Walith. Now again, Lulu Walith is just a small interrupter. It really is just to get some synchros back and just to have a body. So plays Masquerena. Effect. Since he played an extra deck monster left the field or left the extra deck, I just negated. Little Knight. So funny thing with Little Knight, I try to negate its effect to banish. Uses the effect to target these two. It only could target face-up monsters, so that's why Baron wasn't targeted. I miss target, then use the effect to draw 3. At this point, when he plays that, I know he was trying to draw, interrupt, flashing fire. Tries to attack it. Banishes my Runick Fountain. Same attack, so it doesn't die. And remember, because he flipped it face down, my Omni Negate is online. I don't know if you remembered setting it face down. Tried to destroy that. Tries to banish these two in chain. I negate that. So now, I destroy that. And then for Fenrir, it's destroyed as well. At that point, it's a scoop. So let me know what you guys think about this deck. I truly loved it. Of course, I'd love to get feedback. I plan to play this for the next season to still get back to Masters, just to prove Bystial Runick is a competitive deck. It probably isn't the best in terms of the meta, but I prefer to play a deck that is in limbo, like not the best deck, not the worst deck, and can be played, because I just want to enjoy playing competitively without having to get hit or worried about the ban list affecting me. I'm just glad in Master Duel, Baron is still not banned. In TCG, it's a little bit different, but I still play the same deck in TCG. If you guys like this video, I'll probably also play and showcase my TCG deck just to show I'm a huge fan of the Bystial Runick. I will be playing this in the future too, so if you enjoy it too, I'd love for anyone to give me feedback, continue watching me. I really want to get popular in Master Duel and TCG to be that Runick player that isn't a Runick stun player. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for your time. God bless. Continue dueling. Have fun. Bye.